Welcome back. Coinology. The 1995 D1 cent coin is one of those seemingly ordinary pieces of metal that many people pass by every day without a second thought, yet lurking within its coppery sheen and humble denomination is a deeper story that weaves together American history, numismatic intrigue, mint production, collector passion, and the fluctuating tides of market value. When you hold a 1995 D-cent in your hand, what you are holding is not just currency, but a small fragment of the ongoing legacy of one of the most widely circulated coins in United States history. The Lincoln cent, originally introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, has become an enduring presence in pocket change, evolving through design changes, composition shifts, and minting technology advancements. The story of the 1995 D-cent starts with the broader lineage of the Lincoln cent and unfolds into its own chapter of rarity debates, market dynamics, and collector focus. From the moment the first Lincoln cent was struck in Philadelphia in 1909, the intention was to honor a beloved president whose legacy defined the nation. Sculptor Victor David Brenner's design, with Lincoln's profile facing right on the obverse, broke from the tradition of allegorical figures and entered a new era of presidential portraiture on circulating coins. This was a departure from previous large cents and Indian head designs, which presented stylized imagery rather than the realistic likeness of an actual individual. Over decades, the Lincoln cent endured transitions in metal content, from a near-pure copper composition to later bronze and, eventually, to the steel or copper-plated zinc structure used in the 21st century. Each year's minting tells a story of its time, reflecting economic conditions, technological capabilities, and the demands placed upon the United States Mint. By 1995, the Lincoln cent maintained its familiar composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a formula that had been standard for much of the 20th century. The Denver Mint, denoted by the small d mint mark just below the date on the obverse of the coin, produced millions upon millions of these pennies for everyday commerce. On a typical day in American commerce, 1995 D pennies exchanged hands in grocery stores, soda machines, parking meters, and tip jars across the country. It was an age before digital payments had overtaken small cash transactions, and the lowly penny still performed its centuries-old role as the smallest unit of U.S. currency. The obverse of the 1995 D cent carries the enduring visage of Abraham Lincoln, his profile rendered in fine detail, from the contours of his cheek to the folds of his coat. Surrounding this portrait are the inscriptions "In God We Trust," an articulation of national motto, liberty, the foundational value upon which the nation was built, and the year 1995, marking the coin's date of issue. Beneath the date sits the mint mark D, indicating that this particular example was produced at the Denver facility. On the reverse, the coin depicts the Lincoln Memorial, a design that first appeared in 1959 to commemorate 150 years since Lincoln's birth and replaced the earlier wheat ears that had been the hallmark of the Lincoln cent since its inception. Tiny details in the memorial's columns and steps reflect Brenner's artistic intent and the craftsmanship of mint engravers. Most collectors familiar with United States coinage will tell you that while the 1995 D-cent is old enough to be of numismatic interest, it is not rare in pure mintage terms. In fact, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins in 1995, a production figure that places it firmly among the everyday circulation coins rather than the rarities that attract extreme premiums. However, what makes certain examples of the 1995 D-cent valuable is not the general run of common pieces, but rather the anomalies, error coins, high-grade uncirculated specimens, proof likenesses, and other factors that push specific pieces into collectible territory. The concept of coin value beyond face value has fascinated collectors for generations. A coin's value is a composite of several variables: its date and mint mark, the total number produced, the condition or grade of the coin, whether it has any errors or unusual characteristics, and the current demand among collectors. For ordinary 1995 D-cents that have been in circulation for decades, the typical value remains at or near 1 cent. These circulated coins often show signs of wear, scratches, dirt accumulation, and loss of luster, all of which diminish their appeal to collectors who seek pieces closer to their original mint state. When exploring the higher echelons of value for this coin, the first thing that enthusiasts look at is condition. Coin grading is the process by which a coin's state of preservation is assessed on a scale that usually runs from poor, P1, to perfect mint state, MS70. While most 1995 D-cents found in pockets and cash trays might fall somewhere in the lower circulated grades, pristine examples that have never been subject to wear can command premium prices. An uncirculated 1995 D-cent in mint condition, with crisp detail, full luster, and no surface damage, can be worth more than its face value, sometimes several dollars or more, to a collector who desires high-grade specimens for their album or investment portfolio. But beyond uncirculated examples, what truly triggers collector excitement are the error coins, those rare deviations caused during the minting process. Errors may include double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, doubling on letters or numerals, and other anomalies. For example, a 1995 D Lincoln cent with a significant double die where the design appears to be struck twice with a slight offset can be remarkably sought after. These errors are intriguing because they represent moments when the normally precise machine process diverged from perfection, creating unique variations that only a handful of pieces might exhibit. Historically, error coins have fetched substantial sums at auction when the anomaly is severe, well documented, and authenticated by professional grading services. Some error 1995 D cents with noticeable doubling or dramatic off-center strikes have been known to sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the severity and condition. Indeed, there are stories within the numismatic community where a casual pocket change search yielded an unusual 1995 D cent that turned out to be an error piece, bringing astonishment and profit to the finder. The idea that something as common as a penny could be worth thousands of dollars might seem absurd at first glance, yet this is precisely what fuels the collector market: the tension between common and rare, the thrill of discovery, and the deep appreciation of historical artifacts. A collector might hold a magnifying glass to their 1995 D cent, scrutinizing the lettering for subtle doubling on the date or mint mark, glancing at the Lincoln Memorial for signs of die cracks, and comparing minute details against known error examples cataloged by reference guides. These tiny marks, unseen by the average person, can be the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and one worth a small fortune. One of the reasons collectors pursue such coins with intensity is because of the broader narrative they represent. Each coin carries with it a snapshot of a moment in time, the year 1995 when it was struck, the human and machine processes that shaped it, and the journey it has taken through circulation or collection. When an error occurs, that story becomes even more compelling, because it is a fabrication of chance and uniqueness. In the standardized and highly controlled world of modern minting, these deviations are both precious and rare. While error coins attract the headlines, there are also specialty pieces such as proof coins that carry a higher base value simply because they were struck with care for collectors rather than for circulation. The 1995 Lincoln cent proof coins were specially made with polished dies and planchets, designed for maximal visual appeal and sold directly to collectors in sets. These proof cents can carry higher values than standard circulation strikes, particularly in their original packaging or when graded highly by professional services. As we continue diving deeper into the remarkable journey of the 1995 D1 cent coin, it becomes even more fascinating when we begin to explore the microscopic details that most people never notice. Every 1995 D Lincoln cent began its life as a blank metal disc known as a planchet. These planchets were produced using sheets of the copper alloy composition that, during that year, consisted of 95% copper and 5% zinc. The weight of each standard 1995 D cent is approximately 3.11 grams, and its diameter measures 19 millimeters, with a thickness of about 1.52 millimeters. These precise specifications were carefully controlled by the United States Mint to ensure uniformity across billions of coins. The coin's edge is plain, meaning it has no reading or decorative elements, which is typical for U.S. cents. Once the planchets were cut and inspected, they were fed into high-speed presses at the United States Mint facility in Denver, where enormous mechanical force struck the obverse and reverse designs simultaneously onto each blank. The mint mark D on the obverse side tells the story of its birthplace. Denver has long been one of the primary production facilities for circulating coinage in America, and by 1995 it had perfected high-output manufacturing techniques capable of producing millions of coins per day. The scale of this operation is staggering to imagine: conveyor belts moving continuously, metal discs sliding into position, dies pressing designs into place with tons of pressure, and finished coins pouring into storage containers ready to enter circulation. The obverse design, featuring the unmistakable profile of Abraham Lincoln, remains one of the most enduring images in American coinage. Lincoln's calm, thoughtful expression was sculpted by Victor David Brenner in 1909, and remarkably, the same basic portrait was still being used in 1995. Above Lincoln's head appears the inscription, "In God We Trust," which has appeared on U.S. coins since the 19th century. To the left of Lincoln's profile is the word Liberty, and to the right is the date 1995, accompanied just below by the small D mint mark. That tiny letter can be the difference between a Philadelphia strike and a Denver strike, and for collectors who build complete date and mintmark sets, that detail is crucial. Turning to the reverse, the 1995 D cent still carried the Lincoln Memorial design, which had been introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look closely at the memorial building, you can actually see a tiny representation of Lincoln seated inside the structure, a miniature within a miniature, a hidden detail that has delighted collectors for decades. The reverse includes the inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and the denomination 1 cent. The elegance of this design lies in its symmetry and symbolism, a tribute to the man who preserved the Union during the Civil War and a reminder of national unity. In terms of mintage numbers, the 1995 D Lincoln cent was produced in massive quantities, numbering in the billions. Because of this, the vast majority of these coins are common in circulated condition. You can still find them in rolls from banks, in coin jars, and even in everyday change. However, high mintage does not automatically mean zero collector interest. The key factor that separates an ordinary 1995 D cent from a valuable one lies in condition, rarity of error, and market demand. For example, while a circulated 1995 D cent may only be worth face value, an uncirculated example with full original mint luster, often described as having a bright, reddish shine, may command a premium of several cents to a few dollars. Collectors often categorize Lincoln cents by color: red, RD, red-brown, RB, and brown, BN. A full red specimen, showing minimal oxidation and retaining its original mint brilliance, is typically more desirable. Over time, copper reacts with air and moisture, darkening into a brown tone. Therefore, maintaining that original red color significantly enhances desirability and value. One of the most talked about aspects of 1995 Lincoln cents in general is the well-known double-die obverse variety found primarily in coins minted in Philadelphia. While the 1995 D does not share the same fame as its Philadelphia counterpart, collectors still examine Denver strikes carefully for any signs of doubling or anomalies. Doubling can appear in the lettering, especially around Liberty or the date. Under magnification, such doubling may appear as a shadow-like effect or slight separation between letters. A verified double-die variety, authenticated by a professional grading service, can dramatically increase a coin's market value. The coin collecting community thrives on discoveries like these. Imagine someone casually searching through a roll of pennies purchased from a bank, only to notice an unusual feature on a 1995 D cent. That moment of realization that a tiny piece of pocket change could hold unexpected value is part of what makes the hobby so thrilling. It transforms everyday currency into a potential treasure hunt. When discussing extraordinary price claims such as $87 million, it is important to understand the difference between verified market value and viral internet speculation. No standard 1995 D Lincoln cent has ever sold for anywhere near such a figure. However, hypothetical valuations often circulate online, fueled by misunderstandings, exaggerated listings, or mistaken identification of rare varieties. In reality, even the most exceptional 1995 D Lincoln cents, such as those graded MS-68 or featuring dramatic mint errors, would likely sell in the range of hundreds or possibly thousands of dollars, not millions. The coin market operates on documented auction records. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions publish verified sale results, and these figures establish benchmarks for collectors. For instance, a top-grade 1995 D cent graded MS-68 read by a reputable grading service might fetch a significant premium compared to average examples, but it would still be grounded in realistic market demand. The concept of an $87 million penny belongs more to sensational headlines than to established numismatic history. Still, the possibility of discovering a coin worth thousands rather than 1 cent keeps collectors engaged. The rarity of extremely high-grade examples arises because most coins from 1995 entered circulation immediately and were subjected to wear. Only a fraction were preserved carefully in rolls or mint sets. Over time, the number of pristine specimens decreases, making the finest survivors increasingly desirable. This is basic supply and demand economics applied to numismatics. The weight and metallic composition of the 1995 D cent also play a role in its tangible appeal. At 3.11 grams, the coin has a satisfying solidity in the hand. The warm copper tone catches light differently than modern post-1982 copper-plated zinc cents, which weigh slightly less at 2.5 grams. In fact, earlier pre-1982 Lincoln cents were even heavier at 3.11 grams as well, before composition changes were introduced to reduce costs. By 1995, the mint had returned to copper-plated zinc planchets weighing 2.5 grams, meaning most 1995 cents actually weigh 2.5 grams rather than 3.11 grams, a detail that collectors can verify with a precise scale. This distinction is important, as transitional errors in composition can sometimes create highly valuable coins if the wrong metal planchet was used. Another factor influencing value is long-term historical context. Coins serve as time capsules. A 1995 cent was minted during a period of economic expansion in the United States, when technology was advancing rapidly and the internet was beginning to transform communication. That penny might have been used to buy a newspaper reporting on major world events, or dropped into a vending machine for a soda during a hot summer day. Each coin carries silent witness to countless personal stories, passing from hand to hand across decades. Collectors often build complete sets of Lincoln cents spanning from 1909 to modern issues. In such sets, each date and mint mark is required to complete the album. As collectors and historians continue to examine the story of the 1995 D1 cent coin, the conversation inevitably turns toward the world of coin grading and the remarkable difference that condition can make in determining value. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance may, under closer inspection, reveal qualities that elevate it into a category far above common circulation pieces. This is why experienced collectors often examine their coins under magnification, sometimes using specialized lamps, loupes, or microscopes that allow them to study the tiniest details on the surface of the coin. The grading scale used in modern numismatics was popularized and standardized by organizations such as the Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Company. These companies assign coins a grade based on the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70. A coin graded 1 is barely recognizable due to wear, while a coin graded 70 represents absolute perfection with no visible flaws even under magnification. For coins like the 1995 D Lincoln cent, the difference between grades such as MS63, MS65, and MS68 can translate into significant differences in collector value. Most 1995 D cents that entered circulation during the mid-1990s experienced normal wear. These coins travel through countless transactions, from grocery stores to gas stations, from piggy banks to cash registers, from parking meters to vending machines. As they move through the economy, their surfaces gradually lost the bright luster that characterized them when they first left the presses at the United States Mint facility in Denver. Tiny scratches from contact with other coins, slight flattening of design elements, and changes in color due to oxidation are all typical for circulated pennies. However, a small portion of 1995 D cents escaped circulation entirely. These coins may have been saved by collectors directly from bankrolls, stored in protective tubes, or preserved in mint sets. Because they were never exposed to the friction and wear of everyday use, they retained their original mint luster. When viewed under proper lighting, a high-grade uncirculated Lincoln cent can display a vibrant reflective glow that seems to move across the surface as the coin is tilted. This effect is sometimes referred to as the cartwheel luster, and it is one of the hallmarks of a well-preserved coin. Another factor that collectors evaluate is the strike quality. Even though the minting process is highly controlled, slight variations can occur when the dies strike the planchet. A strong strike results in sharp details throughout the design, the folds in the coat of Abraham Lincoln, the crisp lettering in the word Liberty, and the clear architectural features of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Weak strikes, by contrast, may show softness in certain areas where the metal did not fully flow into the die cavities. Collectors also study the surfaces for marks known as contact marks or bag marks. These occur when newly minted coins collide with one another inside large containers at the mint. Even before entering circulation, coins can receive small nicks or abrasions simply from handling and transportation. The fewer marks present on a coin's surface, the higher the potential grade it can achieve. In the world of Lincoln cent collecting, color designation plays a particularly important role. Copper coins change color over time as they react with the environment. A freshly struck coin has a bright orange-red color due to the natural appearance of copper metal. Over years or decades, exposure to air causes the surface to darken into shades of brown. Because of this transformation, grading companies classify copper coins into three main color categories: red, red-brown, and brown. A coin designated as red retains most of its original mint color, and these are typically the most desirable examples for collectors. A red-brown coin shows a mixture of original red and darker brown toning, while a brown coin has fully toned surfaces. For the 1995 D cent, a coin graded MS67 red can be dramatically more valuable than the same coin graded MS67 brown simply because of its visual appeal and relative rarity in that pristine color state. Beyond grading and color, there is the fascinating field of mint errors and varieties. Even though the mint operates with incredible precision, small mistakes occasionally occur during production. These mistakes can transform an otherwise ordinary penny into a highly collectible item. For example, a die crack might appear when a minting die begins to fracture after repeated use. When coins are struck with such a die, raised lines appear on the surface corresponding to the crack. In some cases, these cracks can form dramatic patterns across the coin, giving each piece a distinctive appearance. Another type of error is the off-center strike. In this situation, the planchet is not perfectly aligned between the dies during the strike. As a result, part of the design may be missing while a blank crescent-shaped area appears on the coin. The percentage of off-center strike determines its desirability. A coin that is slightly off-center might be interesting but not extremely valuable, while a coin that is dramatically off-center yet still shows the full date and mint mark can command a substantial premium among collectors. There are also fascinating cases of clipped planchets. These occur when the metal sheet from which planchets are punched overlaps slightly with the edge of a previously punched hole. The result is a coin with a curved section missing from its edge. These clipped coins are authentic mint errors and are sought after because they demonstrate the mechanics of the planchet cutting process. The excitement surrounding error coins has grown significantly in recent years due to the power of the internet. Online marketplaces and social media platforms have allowed collectors to share discoveries instantly with a global audience. Someone might post a photograph of a strange-looking 1995 D cent, and within minutes collectors from around the world are analyzing the image, debating whether it represents a genuine mint error or simply post-mint damage. Occasionally, sensational claims appear online suggesting that a certain penny is worth tens of millions of dollars. Headlines might claim that a rare 1995 D coin could be worth $87 million if found in the right condition. While such numbers capture attention, professional numismatists approach them with caution. The highest verified prices for Lincoln cents typically involve extremely rare early-date coins or historically significant errors, not modern circulation issues. Nevertheless, the possibility that a small coin could hold surprising value keeps collectors motivated to search through rolls and jars of pennies. One reason the Lincoln cent series remains so popular is its accessibility. Anyone can begin collecting simply by examining their pocket change. Unlike some collectibles that require substantial investment to get started, coin collecting allows enthusiasts to participate at every level. A beginner might start by filling a simple coin album with coins found in circulation, including the 1995 D cent. Over time, that collector might upgrade individual coins with higher grade examples purchased from dealers or coin shows. Coin shows themselves are fascinating events. Tables filled with coins from every era and denomination stretch across large halls. Dealers display carefully organized trays containing Lincoln cents arranged by date and mint mark. Collectors walk slowly from table to table, sometimes carrying magnifying glasses or reference books. Conversations about mint varieties, grading standards, and market trends fill the air. In such environments, even a common coin like the 1995 D cent can spark detailed discussions among enthusiasts who appreciate the artistry and history behind each piece. The historical context of the mid-1990s also adds another layer to the story of this coin. The year 1995 was a time when personal computers were becoming widespread, the internet was beginning to transform communication, and global economic structures were shifting toward digital systems. Yet despite these technological changes, physical coins remained an essential part of everyday life. The humble penny continued to circulate widely, bridging the gap between traditional cash economies and the emerging digital age. Every coin minted in 1995 carries the silent memory of that moment in history. Perhaps a particular 1995 D cent was used to buy a newspaper reporting on major events, or maybe it rested for years inside a jar on someone's kitchen counter. The path of each coin is unique, shaped by countless small transactions and personal interactions. As the years continue to pass, the 1995 D Lincoln cent becomes more than just a coin from the 1990s. It slowly transforms into a piece of late 20th century American history. Every coin that survives today has endured nearly 3 decades of handling, storage, movement, and environmental exposure. Some have darkened to a deep chocolate brown, Others remain partially red with flashes of original luster hiding in protected areas around the letters and inside the Lincoln Memorial columns. A very small percentage remain fully red, almost glowing as they did the moment they left the coining press in Denver. That difference in surface preservation is one of the most powerful drivers of collector value. When examining the 1995 D cent closely, specialists often focus on strike quality. Even though billions were minted, not all coins were struck with equal sharpness. Dies wear down over time, and later strikes in a die's life may show softer details. On a sharply struck example, Lincoln's hairlines appear crisp and well-defined, the bow tie shows clear separation, and the steps and columns of the memorial on the reverse display distinct architectural detail. On weaker strikes, these areas appear mushy or blurred. A fully struck, well-centered 1995 D cent in high mint state condition can stand out dramatically compared to average pieces. Another technical factor affecting value is luster. Mint luster is created during the striking process when metal flows outward under immense pressure from the dies. This flow creates microscopic lines that reflect light in a cartwheel pattern when the coin is tilted. Collectors often rotate a coin under a light source to observe this cartwheel effect. Strong, uninterrupted luster is highly desirable, while dull or broken luster can reduce a coin's grade. Because the 1995 D was made of copper-plated zinc, its luster appears slightly different from earlier solid bronze cents, but it still displays that characteristic shimmering effect when preserved properly. Contact marks are another grading consideration. When coins are mass-produced, they are dropped into large bins and transported in bulk bags. During this process, coins collide with one another, leaving small nicks and abrasions. Even coins that never entered circulation can show bag marks from these impacts. The fewer and smaller these marks are, the higher the potential grade. That is why MS-67 or MS-68 examples are scarce, not because the mintage was low, but because surviving coins with nearly flawless surfaces are difficult to find. The psychology of rarity plays a fascinating role in the valuation of coins like the 1995 D cent. While it is objectively common in lower grades, it becomes conditionally rare in the highest grades. Conditional rarity means that a coin is abundant overall but scarce in top condition. Collectors who aim to assemble the finest possible Lincoln Memorial cent registry sets compete fiercely for the best graded examples. Registry set competition, hosted by professional grading companies, allows collectors to rank their collections against others based on certified grades. In this competitive environment, even a relatively modern coin like the 1995 D can achieve surprisingly strong auction results if it represents one of the highest graded examples known to. In addition to mint state examples, collectors sometimes explore toned specimens. Toning occurs when chemical reactions on the coin's surface create colors ranging from subtle gold to vibrant blues and purples. While toning is more commonly associated with silver coins, copper coins can also develop attractive hues. Natural, even toning may enhance visual appeal and increase desirability among certain collectors. However, artificial toning or cleaning attempts often damage a coin's surface and significantly reduce its market value. It is also important to consider the broader Lincoln cent series. Since its introduction in 1909, the Lincoln cent has undergone several reverse design changes, transitioning from wheat ears to the Lincoln Memorial and later to the Union Shield design introduced in 2010. The 1995 D cent belongs firmly within the Lincoln Memorial era, a period spanning from 1959 to 2008. Many collectors focus specifically on completing this memorial subseries, which includes dozens of dates and mint marks. Although none from the 1990s are considered key dates in the traditional sense, condition rarity and error varieties still generate ongoing interest. One persistent topic among enthusiasts involves transitional errors and wrong planchet strikes. While extremely rare, coins struck on the wrong metal planchet can command substantial premiums. For example, if a 1995 D cent were somehow struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a dime planchet, it would immediately become a dramatic and highly valuable mint error. These occurrences are extraordinarily uncommon, but documented examples from various years have sold for thousands of dollars at auction. The rarity lies in the mint's strict quality control processes, which typically prevents such mismatches. Another intriguing possibility involves rotated dies. Normally, when you flip a US coin from top to bottom, the reverse design appears upright. If the reverse appears rotated significantly off alignment, it indicates a rotated die error. Mild rotations are somewhat collectible, extreme rotations can be much more valuable. A 1995 D cent with a strong rotated die error could capture attention from error specialists who appreciate mechanical anomalies in the minting process. As we discuss market value, it is essential to ground expectations in documented reality. The overwhelming majority of 1995 D Lincoln cents in circulated condition are worth exactly 1 cent. Even in uncirculated condition, many examples trade for only modest premiums of a few cents to a few dollars. However, coins graded at the very top of the population reports, such as MS-67 red or higher, can reach significantly higher prices, sometimes into the hundreds of dollars depending on auction competition. Exceptional error coins may exceed that range. Claims of extreme multi-million-dollar valuations are not supported by verified auction records for this date, and market conditions fluctuate over time. When interest in coin collecting rises, often fueled by online communities, educational videos, or economic uncertainty that drives people toward tangible assets, prices can strengthen. Conversely, during quieter market periods, prices may soften. The numismatic market reflects broader economic trends while also maintaining its own specialized dynamics based on collector enthusiasm and rarity metrics. Educational value is another aspect that elevates the 1995 D cent beyond its face value. For beginners entering the world of coin collecting, it serves as an accessible introduction to grading, mint marks, die varieties, and preservation techniques. A new collector can easily obtain rolls of 1995 D cents and practice identifying high-quality examples or minor errors. This hands-on experience builds foundational knowledge that can later be applied to rarer and more valuable coins. There is also a sentimental dimension. Coins from the 1990s may evoke nostalgia for individuals who grew up during that decade. The 1995 D cent might remind someone of childhood allowances, school lunch purchases, or visits to arcades where coins were essential. Over time, nostalgia itself can contribute to collectible interest as generations seek tangible connections to their past. When storing a 1995 D cent for long-term preservation, experts recommend inert holders such as mylar flips, coin capsules, or certified slabs. Avoiding exposure to humidity, extreme temperatures, and direct handling protects the coin's surfaces. Even the oils from fingertips can leave marks that become permanent over time. Serious collectors handle coins only by their edges and store them in climate-controlled environments. As decades continue to pass, the 1995 D cent will gradually become less common in everyday circulation simply due to attrition and loss. Coins are removed from circulation when damaged, corroded, or excessively worn. Although billions were produced, the number of well-preserved examples will naturally decline over the long term. This slow reduction contributes subtly to the coin's long-term collectible appeal. The story of the 1995 D Lincoln cent ultimately reflects a broader truth about numismatics: value is layered. There is face value, which remains 1 cent. There is intrinsic metal value, which fluctuates with copper and zinc prices. There is collector value, determined by condition and rarity. And there is historical value, rooted in the coin's place within the continuous narrative of American currency. Each layer adds depth to what might otherwise seem like an insignificant object. As we move even deeper into the full story of the 1995 D Lincoln cent, it becomes clear that part of its lasting intrigue comes from how ordinary it appears at first glance. Billions were produced, millions still exist, and yet hidden among them are subtle differences that only trained eyes can detect. The beauty of coin collecting lies in this contrast between the common and the exceptional. A person may hold 10 1995 D cents in their hand, and 9 of them will be completely average, while one might display slightly stronger luster, sharper detail, or a minor mint anomaly that sets it apart. The journey of a single 1995 D cent can span decades. It may have begun in a sealed mint bag containing thousands of identical coins. Those bags were shipped to distribution centers and eventually broken open for banking circulation. Once released into the economy, the coin likely changed hands hundreds or even thousands of times. Every transaction added microscopic wear to its surface. Each small scratch, each dulling of the original red shine, is evidence of its participation in commerce. In that sense, even a worn coin carries invisible historical weight. Collectors often describe the Lincoln cent series as one of the most accessible entry points into numismatics. Because pennies are so abundant, almost anyone can begin searching through pocket change at no cost beyond time and curiosity. The 1995 D cent fits perfectly into this approachable category. While rare key dates from earlier decades may be expensive, the 1995D offers beginners an opportunity to study mint marks, grading standards, and preservation techniques without risking large sums of money, yet within that accessibility lies the possibility of conditional scarcity. If you were to gather thousands of 1995D cents and examine them carefully, you would likely notice that truly pristine examples are surprisingly difficult to find. Coins that have survived without noticeable contact marks, without oxidation spots, and with uninterrupted luster are far less common than their massive mintage suggests. That is why collectors sometimes pay strong premiums for top-grade examples certified by reputable grading services. The rarity is not in the date itself, but in the survival of perfection. Another area of fascination involves die states. Over time, the dies used to strike coins gradually deteriorate. Early die-state coins are typically sharper and display finer detail. Later die-state coins may show flow lines, die cracks, or subtle distortions as the die nears the end of its usable life. Advanced collectors study these characteristics to categorize coins into specific die states. In some cases, tracking die states can even help identify rare varieties or establish the sequence of production. The 1995D cent also serves as an example of how modern minting differs from early 20th century practices. By the mid-1990s, minting technology had become highly automated and efficient. Quality control processes were strong, which means major dramatic errors are relatively rare compared to earlier eras. However, the sheer scale of production means that small mistakes inevitably slipped through. These errors, though uncommon, provide excitement for collectors who enjoy searching through bulk quantities of coins. Some collectors focus specifically on roll hunting. They purchase unopened rolls of pennies from banks and search through them systematically. Because 1995D cents remain common in circulation, they often appear in such rolls. The thrill lies in examining each coin under magnification, checking for doubling on the date or lettering, inspecting the mint mark for irregularities, and evaluating strike quality. Even if only one interesting coin appears in 1,000, the discovery can make the entire search worthwhile. The copper-plated zinc composition of the 1995D cent also influences its long-term durability. Unlike earlier solid bronze cents, the modern copper-plated zinc core can sometimes suffer from plating issues. If the copper layer is breached, the underlying zinc may corrode more rapidly. This can create bubbling, pitting, or discoloration on the coin's surface. Coins exhibiting such damage are generally less desirable to collectors, which makes fully intact examples more appealing over time. In discussions about value, it is important to distinguish between speculative online listings and confirmed auction sales. Occasionally, online marketplaces show individual sellers listing common 1995D cents for extremely high prices, sometimes claiming values in the millions. These listings often generate confusion or unrealistic expectations. However, actual documented sales through established auction houses and certified grading channels provide the true measure of market value. As of verified records, no ordinary 1995D Lincoln cent has achieved anything remotely close to tens of millions of dollars. The realistic top values remain within the range of high-grade certified specimens or significant mint errors. Even so, the idea that a small coin could potentially be worth hundreds or thousands continues to capture public imagination. The dream of finding treasure in everyday change is powerful. It encourages people to look more closely at objects they might otherwise ignore. In that sense, the 1995D cent represents opportunity not necessarily for extreme wealth, but for knowledge, discovery, and engagement with history. Beyond pure monetary value, there is symbolic value. The portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse connects the coin to one of the most important figures in American history. Lincoln's legacy as a leader during the Civil War and his role in preserving the Union lend deeper meaning to every Lincoln cent minted. The reverse design of the Lincoln Memorial reinforces that connection, creating a tribute that lasted nearly 50 years on circulating pennies. For many Americans, the Lincoln cent is more than currency, it is a miniature monument carried in pockets across generations. As the numismatic community evolves, younger collectors increasingly use digital tools to analyze and document their finds. High-resolution photography, online forums, grading population reports, and auction archives allow collectors to compare their 1995D cents with thousands of other examples worldwide. This global connectivity has expanded knowledge and transparency in the coin market. It also means that rare varieties are more quickly identified and documented than in the past. Long-term projections for coins like the 1995 D cent depend largely on continued interest in the Lincoln cent series. While some debate the future of the penny in U.S. currency due to rising production costs, its historical legacy ensures lasting collector interest. Even if one day the penny were discontinued, existing coins would remain as tangible reminders of over a century of continuous minting. If a person today were to open a jar of old change and discover a handful of bright red 1995 D cents that appear nearly flawless, it would be wise to examine them carefully. Checking their weight, inspecting surfaces under magnification, and possibly submitting the best examples for professional grading could reveal modest but meaningful premiums. The process itself teaches patience and attention to detail, qualities central to successful collecting. Of the fascination surrounding the 1995 D Lincoln cent ultimately stems from the intersection of history, economics, metallurgy, and human curiosity. It shows how an object designed for everyday exchange can acquire layers of significance over time. Most will remain common, their value fixed at 1 cent. A few will stand out due to condition or error. And all will continue to circulate through collections, jars, albums, and auctions, carrying forward the quiet story that began in 1995 at the Denver Mint. And as long as collectors continue to search through change, examine coins under light, and dream of rare discoveries, the 1995 D Lincoln cent will retain its place in the ongoing narrative of American numismatics, humble in denomination, yet endlessly fascinating in detail. As the story of the 1995 D Lincoln cent continues to unfold over the decades, its place within the broader economic and cultural landscape becomes even more interesting. By the mid-1990s, the United States economy was expanding, technology companies were emerging, and everyday cash transactions were still the dominant method of exchange. The penny remained a constant presence in wallets and cash registers. The 1995 D cent was not viewed as collectible at the time of its release. It was simply a functional unit of currency, produced in enormous quantities to meet demand. Yet time has a way of transforming ordinary objects into artifacts. When billions of coins are struck in a single year, the assumption is that they will always remain plentiful. However, attrition is a powerful force. Coins are lost, discarded, melted, damaged, and withdrawn from circulation every year. Over a span of 30 years, a significant percentage of the original mintage may no longer exist in collectible condition. While the total number produced was massive, the number of surviving coins in high mint state condition is considerably smaller. That gap between original mintage and top condition survivors forms the foundation of long-term collectible value. One of the fascinating aspects of the 1995 D cent is how it illustrates the concept of time preference in collecting. When a coin is newly minted, few people think to preserve it in pristine condition. It is abundant and easily obtainable. Only later, when collectors begin to assemble date and mint mark sets with competitive grading standards, does demand for high-grade examples intensify. A coin that once seemed insignificant may become difficult to locate in near-perfect condition decades later. That delayed recognition can create surprising price movements for the finest certified specimens. Another dimension of value comes from population reports published by professional grading companies. These reports track how many examples of a particular coin have been certified at each grade level. If, for instance, only a small number of 1995 D cents have been graded MS68 red, and none higher, collectors seeking the top spot in registry competitions may compete aggressively for those few examples. The competition itself can drive prices upward. It is not simply the coin being purchased, it is the prestige associated with owning one of the best-known examples. Error collecting remains one of the most dynamic subfields within numismatics. A 1995 D cent displaying a dramatic error, such as a significant off-center strike or a major die break, immediately attracts attention because it represents a visible departure from normal production standards. Collectors of mint errors appreciate the mechanical story behind such pieces. Each error tells of a moment when machinery, alignment, or materials did not behave exactly as intended. That brief deviation produced a unique artifact that escaped quality control and entered circulation. For example, consider a hypothetical 1995 D cent struck 40% off-center while still retaining the full date and mint mark. Such a coin would clearly display its anomaly at first glance. The blank crescent-shaped portion would contrast sharply with the struck design. Depending on condition, such a piece could easily sell for hundreds of dollars or more. If the off-center strike were even more dramatic and visually striking, the value could climb higher. These are the kinds of pieces that generate headlines within collector circles. Double strikes are another captivating possibility. In rare cases, a coin may be struck more than once, either in the same alignment or at a shifted angle. This results in overlapping images of the design. A genuine double strike on a 1995 D cent would be highly collectible, particularly if both impressions are clearly visible. The rarity of such occurrences ensures strong demand among specialists. The concept of red, red-brown, and brown color designations remains central to copper coin valuation. Because the 1995 D cent uses a copper-plated zinc composition, maintaining that original red brilliance is challenging over long periods. Environmental factors such as humidity, temperature fluctuation, and exposure to air can accelerate toning. Therefore, coins stored in stable, dry conditions have a better chance of preserving their vibrant appearance. Collectors pay particular attention to this factor because color designations significantly influence certified grade and final sale price. It is also interesting to consider the intrinsic metal value of the 1995 D cent. Although the face value is 1 cent, the metal content has fluctuated in market value over time. However, because the coin consists primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating, its melt value typically remains below face value under normal market conditions. Furthermore, it is illegal to melt US cents for their metal content. As a result, collector value remains the primary pathway for appreciation rather than bullion content. The continued survival of the Lincoln cent design into the 21st century demonstrates its cultural endurance. The obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln has remained largely unchanged since 1909, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. The 1995 D cent is part of that long continuum, linking modern Americans with generations past who also carried Lincoln cents in their pockets. Few other coins have maintained such visual continuity for so long. In educational settings, coins like the 1995 D cent are often used to teach basic principles of economics and history. Students can learn about supply and demand, inflation, production costs, and the role of the U.S. Mint in maintaining currency supply. They can also explore the biography of Abraham Lincoln and understand why his image appears on the coin. In this way, even a modern penny becomes a teaching tool. There is also the emotional component of collecting. Many collectors began their hobby by searching through pocket change as children. The excitement of finding an older coin or a bright uncirculated example can spark lifelong interest. A 1995 D cent discovered in brilliant red condition among dull circulated coins might inspire someone to start a full Lincoln cent collection. That spark of curiosity is often how serious collectors are born. When evaluating a 1995 D cent for potential submission to a grading service, careful preparation is essential. The coin should never be cleaned or polished. It should be handled only by the edges and stored in a protective holder. Submitting coins involves fees, so collectors typically select only their very best examples. If a coin returns with a high mint state grade, its value may increase enough to justify the cost. If not, the experience still adds to the collector's knowledge and expertise. Over the long term, the 1995 D cent will continue to circulate in two parallel worlds: everyday commerce and structured collections. In circulation, it remains a simple penny used in small transactions. In collections, it becomes a documented artifact, graded, cataloged, and preserved. These two paths occasionally intersect when someone discovers a high-quality example still hiding in change. The ongoing debate about the future of the penny also adds an interesting dimension. Discussions about discontinuing the 1-cent coin due to production costs have surfaced periodically. If the penny were ever retired from circulation, existing examples like the 1995 D cent would take on additional historical significance as part of a completed era of American coinage. Such an event could potentially stimulate renewed interest in collecting Lincoln cents. Ultimately, the 1995 D Lincoln cent embodies the core principles of numismatics: observation, patience, research, and respect for history. It reminds collectors that value is not always obvious and that even the smallest denomination can offer layers of complexity. While most examples will always remain worth 1 cent, a select few, distinguished by exceptional preservation or dramatic mint errors, stand apart as prized collectibles, and so the narrative continues, stretching from the minting presses of Denver in 1995 to the hands of collectors today. Each coin carries its own silent history, waiting for someone to examine it closely, appreciate its details, and perhaps discover that within its modest copper surface lies something far more interesting than face value alone. As the narrative of the 1995 Lincoln cent stretches further into the present day, it becomes increasingly clear that its true power lies not in exaggerated price rumors or unrealistic multi-million-dollar claims, but in the depth of knowledge and discovery it offers to those willing to look closely. The real treasure is often not a headline-grabbing fortune, but the understanding of how a simple coin can reflect metallurgy, economics, artistry, machinery, and human behavior all at once. When collectors sit down with a magnifying glass and a tray of pennies, the process becomes almost meditative. A 1995 cent is picked up, rotated slowly under light, and examined from every angle. The viewer studies Lincoln's cheek, the sharpness of his jawline, the spacing of the letters and liberty, and the clarity of the date. The mint mark D is inspected carefully to ensure it is properly formed and not distorted. The reverse is then turned upward, and the Lincoln Memorial is observed for crisp columns, defined steps, and clean fields free of distracting marks. This slow, deliberate examination transforms a 1-cent coin into an object of technical appreciation. One of the most subtle but important aspects of evaluating a 1995 cent is surface preservation. Because these coins are copper-plated zinc, the thin copper layer can sometimes show tiny bubbles or spots if the plating was imperfect or if corrosion began at a microscopic level. These flaws may not be visible without magnification, but they can impact grading results. A coin that appears flawless at arm's length might reveal small imperfections under closer inspection, which is why professional grading services use high-powered tools and controlled lighting environments. Another long-term factor influencing collectability is generational transition. As collectors from earlier decades pass their collections down to heirs, the market experiences waves of supply entering at once. Modern coins like the 1995 cent often appear in estate collections because they were saved in rolls or mint sets during the 1990s. Some individuals at that time anticipated future value and stored original bank-wrapped rolls of new pennies. Today, those unopened rolls can still be found, and they sometimes contain high-grade examples waiting to be discovered. Original rolls offer a unique opportunity because coins stored together since mint release may have avoided heavy circulation. However, even within sealed rolls, coins can develop minor contact marks from touching each other. This means that finding a true gem-quality example remains challenging. It is this difficulty that creates the condition rarity discussed earlier. While billions were struck, the number of nearly flawless survivors is far smaller. There is also an analytical side to collecting the 1995 cent. Advanced hobbyists may track die pairings and attempt to catalog minor variations in letter placement or die polishing lines. These small distinctions can identify different die marriages used during production. While such varieties may not command enormous premiums, they contribute to a deeper understanding of mint operations and provide additional collecting goals beyond simple date and mintmark completion. As digital platforms continue to grow, online marketplaces and auction archives provide transparency into actual selling prices. A certified 1995 cent graded MS67 red might sell for a strong premium compared to lower grades, but values are grounded in documented transactions rather than speculation. Serious collectors rely on these verified sales to determine fair market value. This disciplined approach separates numismatic investing from rumor-driven hype. Another compelling aspect of the 1995 cent is its role in illustrating inflation and purchasing power over time. In 1995, a single penny still had small practical use in everyday transactions. Prices often ended in 0.99 or 0.95, and pennies were routinely exchanged as change. Over time, inflation has reduced the purchasing power of the cent, and digital transactions have reduced reliance on physical coins. Yet the penny persists, and the 1995 remains part of that ongoing monetary story. For collectors who focus on full Lincoln Memorial cent sets spanning 1959 to 2008, the 1995 represents a mid-series entry. While not a key date, its inclusion is necessary for completeness. The satisfaction of filling that album slot is a powerful motivator. Collecting is often about completion as much as rarity. Each filled space symbolizes effort, patience, and dedication. The emotional attachment to coins should not be underestimated. A person who was born in 1995 might feel a special connection to coins from that year. A 1995 cent could serve as a birth year keepsake, preserved in high grade as a personal memento. This type of sentimental demand adds another layer to the market, separate from strict rarity calculations. In rare instances, coins from the 1990s have achieved surprising prices when they are discovered in exceptionally high grades that surpass previous records. When a new finest known example emerges, registry collectors may compete intensely to secure it. These moments generate temporary spikes in interest and remind the hobby that even modern coins can achieve noteworthy auction results under the right circumstances. Still, it is crucial to remain realistic. No verified sale places an ordinary 1995 D Lincoln cent anywhere near tens of millions of dollars. The true top-end values are reserved for the absolute finest graded examples or dramatic mint errors. Most coins remain common and trade accordingly. Understanding this balance between excitement and evidence is essential for responsible collecting. As decades continue to pass, the 1995 D cent will slowly transition from modern to vintage in perception. Coins often gain nostalgic and historical appeal once they cross generational boundaries. What seems recent today may feel distant tomorrow. The further we move from 1995, the more these coins represent a snapshot of that era's minting technology and economic environment. Collectors who preserve high-quality examples today may find that patience rewards them in the future, not necessarily with extraordinary riches, but with steady appreciation and historical significance. Numismatics tends to reward long-term dedication rather than short-term speculation. The true value lies in careful selection, proper storage, and ongoing education. In the end, the 1995 D Lincoln cent stands as a testament to how something small can carry a large narrative. It embodies the craftsmanship of the mint, the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, the mechanics of modern coin production, and the curiosity of collectors who refuse to overlook even the smallest details. Whether resting in circulation, sealed in a certified holder, or tucked into a childhood coin album, each example continues its quiet journey through time, and as long as people continue to search their change, examine coins under bright light, and wonder whether they might be holding something special, the story of the 1995 D Lincoln cent will remain alive, not because of impossible multimillion-dollar myths, but because of the enduring fascination that transforms a single cent into an object of study, preservation, and appreciation. As we move further into the complete life story of the 1995 D Lincoln cent, it becomes even more powerful to step back and look at it from a wider historical lens. This small coin is part of a continuous American monetary timeline that stretches back over 2 centuries. By the time the 1995 D penny was struck in Denver, the Lincoln cent design had already survived wars, economic depressions, booms, technological revolutions, and multiple composition changes. It had become one of the most recognizable coins in the world. And yet, in 1995, it was simply another year in an ongoing production cycle, billions more added to circulation without ceremony, but time transforms perspective. Today, when collectors revisit coins from the mid-1990s, they are not just looking at spare change. They are looking at artifacts from a specific economic and cultural period. The 1995 D cent represents the final years before the digital economy truly accelerated. Credit cards were common, but mobile payments did not exist. E-commerce was still young. Physical coins were essential in daily life. This context gives the coin a subtle historical depth beyond its metallic composition. One of the fascinating realities of modern coinage is survival bias. While billions were minted, only a fraction will remain in collectible condition long term. Coins are constantly lost in soil, vacuumed into trash, corroded in harsh environments, or damaged beyond recognition. Others sit in jars for decades, exposed to humidity and temperature shifts that slowly degrade their surfaces. The coins that survive in high-grade condition are those that were either intentionally preserved or accidentally protected from harm. This leads to an important concept in numismatics: preservation determines future rarity. The 1995 D cent is common today in circulated condition, but high-end mint state examples are already much scarcer than raw mintage numbers suggest. As more coins degrade over time, the supply of premium quality pieces will not increase. It will only shrink or remain stable, which is why condition-based scarcity plays such a significant role in pricing. Another layer of depth involves die variety research. Even within a single year in mint mark, multiple dies were used in production. Each die may have had small identifying characteristics, tiny chips, polishing lines, or spacing variations in lettering. Advanced collectors sometimes catalog these differences, searching for minor varieties that are not widely documented. While such varieties may not always command large premiums, they add intellectual richness to the hobby. The act of studying them enhances appreciation for the minting process itself. We must also consider the economics of coin production. By 1995, the cost of producing a penny was approaching or even exceeding its face value. Discussions about eliminating the penny were already occurring in economic circles. Despite this, the 1995 D-cent was struck in enormous numbers because demand for small denomination currency remained high. This tension between production cost and monetary utility adds another dimension to its story. The coin exists not only as currency, but as evidence of policy decisions balancing practicality and tradition. For collectors who dream of major discoveries, the possibility of dramatic mint errors continues to fuel interest. Imagine finding a 1995 D-cent struck on an incorrect planchet, perhaps intended for a foreign coin contract, or discovering a broad strike error with extreme distortion. These possibilities are rare, but not impossible. Throughout numismatic history, unexpected errors have surfaced years after minting. The key is knowledge, knowing what to look for and how to verify authenticity. Authentication is critical because modern technology has also made counterfeiting and alteration easier. Unscrupulous individuals may attempt to modify mint marks, artificially tone coins, or create the illusion of doubling. That is why serious collectors rely on reputable grading services and experienced experts. A certified coin carries far more credibility and market trust than an uncertified claim. Another interesting dimension of the 1995 D-cent involves generational collecting trends. Collecting habits shift over time. Some generations focus heavily on classic silver coinage, while others embrace modern issues and registry competition. As younger collectors enter the hobby, they often start with coins from their own lifetime. For someone who grew up in the 1990s, the 1995 D-cent is not modern in the same way it felt 20 years ago. It is part of their childhood memory. That emotional attachment can gradually influence long-term demand. When discussing extreme hypothetical valuations like $87 million, it is important to separate entertainment from evidence. No verified 1995 D Lincoln cent has ever approached such a figure. The most valuable coins in American history, such as certain early gold coins or unique pattern issues, achieved record-breaking prices due to extreme rarity and historical importance. The 1995 D-cent, while fascinating, does not fall into that category. Its value ceiling is defined by condition rarity and error status, not uniqueness on a national historical scale. However, dismissing exaggerated claims does not reduce the coin's legitimate appeal. In fact, understanding realistic value enhances appreciation. A coin worth a few $100s because it survived in near-perfect condition for decades represents a triumph of preservation. A coin worth thousands due to a major mint error represents a mechanical anomaly that escaped strict quality controls. These stories are compelling precisely because they are rare and verifiable. The long-term outlook for the 1995 D-cent will depend on continued interest in the Lincoln series. If the penny is eventually discontinued, older issues may receive renewed attention. Even if it continues indefinitely, the memorial reverse design already belongs to a completed chapter of coin history, having been replaced by new designs after 2008. That closure gives the memorial era a defined historical boundary, making complete sets attractive to collectors. Education remains one of the most valuable aspects of studying this coin. Through examining a 1995 D-cent, a collector learns about mint marks, metal composition, grading scales, die deterioration, market analysis, and economic context. The coin becomes a gateway into deeper knowledge. This intellectual reward often proves more lasting than financial gain. In the quiet moments of coin examination, when light reflects off the copper surface and the tiny portrait of Abraham Lincoln comes into focus, there is a connection across time. The coin you hold was struck by powerful presses in Denver in 1995. It may have traveled thousands of miles, passed through countless hands, and witnessed countless transactions. Yet it survives today as a small, tangible link to that year, and that is perhaps the greatest value of the 1995 D Lincoln cent. Not the myth of impossible millions, but the authentic story of craftsmanship, circulation, preservation, and discovery. It reminds us that even the smallest denomination can carry decades of history within its thin metallic surface. It shows that attention to detail can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. And it proves that in the world of numismatics, every coin, no matter how common, has a story waiting to be explored. The journey is not finished. As long as collectors continue searching, studying, grading, trading, and preserving, the 1995 D cent will continue to circulate not only in commerce but in curiosity. Its story grows each year it survives, quietly gaining depth as it moves further away from its minting date and deeper into history. As we continue even further into the long and detailed exploration of the 1995 D Lincoln cent, it becomes increasingly important to understand how time reshapes perception. When the coin was first released in 1995, no one stood in line to collect it. There were no headlines announcing its arrival, no predictions that it would one day be discussed in long-form analysis. It was simply another production year in an already long-running series. Yet decades later, we find ourselves analyzing its weight, its metal composition, its strike quality, its luster, its die states, and its market performance with careful attention. That transformation from ordinary currency to studied collectible is one of the most fascinating processes in numismatics. The life cycle of a coin like the 1995 D cent can be broken into stages. First is production, the high-speed striking process at the Denver Mint. Second is distribution, shipping in bulk to financial institutions. Third is circulation, active participation in commerce. Fourth is accumulation, storage in jars, drawers, collections, or bankrolls. Fifth is evaluation, when someone examines it closely and determines its condition and potential value. And finally comes preservation, encapsulation, album placement, or long-term storage. Each stage adds to the coin's narrative. One of the subtle but critical features that serious collectors evaluate on a 1995 D cent is strike pressure consistency. Even within the same production run, slight variations in striking force can alter detail sharpness. A coin struck with optimal pressure will show bold detail on Lincoln's hair strands and clean separation in the memorial's columns. Coins struck with slightly weaker pressure may appear softer in those areas. These small distinctions can influence grading decisions at higher mint state levels. Another advanced factor involves surface reflectivity. While the 1995 D is not a proof coin, some exceptionally well-preserved business strikes can exhibit semi-proof-like qualities when struck from fresh dies. These coins may display mirrored fields and strong contrast between raised devices and background surfaces. Such pieces are uncommon and can attract premium attention from collectors who appreciate aesthetic appeal beyond numerical grade alone. Environmental storage conditions have played a major role in determining which 1995 D cents remain in top condition today. Coins stored in climate-controlled safes or inert holders have a significantly higher chance of retaining their red coloration. In contrast, coins left in humid basements or fluctuating attic temperatures may show spotting or darkening. Over decades, these environmental differences create wide variations in appearance even among coins originally struck within seconds of each other. It is also worth considering the broader collecting environment of the 1990s. During that period, coin collecting remained popular but was transitioning into a more digitally connected era. Price guides were increasingly available online, auction records were becoming easier to track, and third-party grading services were firmly established as industry standards. The 1995 D cent therefore entered circulation at a time when preservation awareness was already widespread. Many collectors saved rolls of new cents anticipating long-term appreciation. That foresight has influenced the current availability of uncirculated examples. When examining price development over time, it becomes clear that modern coins like the 1995 D do not experience rapid exponential growth in value under normal circumstances. Instead, appreciation tends to be gradual and closely tied to grade rarity. A coin graded MS65 red may remain affordable for years, while a coin graded MS68 red may command substantial premiums due to extremely low certified populations. The difference between those two grades can represent the difference between a coin worth a modest amount and one worth hundreds or more. The discussion of an $87 million valuation must be placed firmly in perspective. Coins that reach record-breaking eight-figure prices typically possess extraordinary historical importance and extreme rarity, often being unique specimens or connected to foundational periods in national history. The 1995 D Lincoln cent does not meet those criteria in standard form. Its value ceiling, even in exceptional condition, remains within realistic collector-driven boundaries. Recognizing this protects collectors from misinformation and speculative hype. However, rarity within a specific context can still create meaningful value. For example, if only a handful of 1995 D cents have been certified at the absolute highest grade with full red designation and flawless surfaces, those few coins become trophies within registry competition. In that narrow but passionate arena, prices can rise significantly due to collector rivalry. That competitive energy demonstrates how demand dynamics can amplify even modern issues. Another dimension worth exploring is the impact of education and outreach on coin interest. Online video platforms, coin forums, and social media groups have introduced thousands of new individuals to coin roll hunting and error searching. Many beginners specifically search for coins from the 1990s because they are easy to obtain. The 1995 D cent frequently appears in these searches, serving as a gateway into deeper exploration of minting errors and grading standards. From a metallurgical perspective, the copper-plated zinc structure of the 1995 D cent represents cost-efficiency innovation. The shift from solid bronze to plated zinc in earlier decades significantly reduced production expenses. This composition change also altered how coins age. Plated coins may develop zinc exposure if the copper layer is compromised. That vulnerability makes intact examples more desirable and emphasizes careful handling. The Lincoln Memorial reverse design on the 1995 D cent also holds historical continuity value. Introduced in 1959, it remained in use until 2008, making it one of the longest-running reverse designs in American coinage. The 1995 D sits comfortably in the later half of that era, representing mature production methods and consistent design standards. For collectors assembling full memorial reverse sets, each year becomes a building block in a complete historical run. The emotional side of collecting cannot be overlooked. Some individuals keep coins from meaningful years, birth years, anniversaries, or milestone events. A 1995 D cent may hold personal value unrelated to market price. That emotional attachment contributes indirectly to supply reduction because such coins are often kept permanently rather than re-entering circulation. Looking forward, the long-term collectible status of the 1995 D cent will depend on continued generational engagement with numismatics. If young collectors remain curious about coins, modern issues like this one will gradually gain vintage status. As the gap between minting date and present day widens, historical perspective deepens. What once seemed commonplace slowly gains character simply through survival. In many ways, the 1995 D Lincoln cent symbolizes patience. It teaches that not all value is immediate. Sometimes decades must pass before a coin's condition rarity becomes fully appreciated. Sometimes careful preservation yields rewards long after the original mintage excitement has faded. And sometimes the greatest reward is simply the satisfaction of knowledge gained through study. When you hold a 1995 D cent today, you hold 2.5 grams of metal that has traveled through time. It may have purchased a newspaper in 1996, been dropped into a jar in 2001, rediscovered during spring cleaning in 2015, and examined under magnification in 2026. Its physical presence connects multiple eras of ownership. That continuity is part of what makes coins uniquely powerful historical objects. As our exploration continues, the pattern remains consistent: common in number, selective in rarity, realistic in value, rich in story. The 1995 D Lincoln cent may not be a multi-million-dollar rarity, but it stands as a compelling example of how modern coinage can still inspire deep interest, careful analysis, and ongoing conversation within the numismatic world. And so the journey carries on, one coin at a time, each 1995 D cent waiting quietly to be examined, appreciated, and perhaps preserved as a small but meaningful fragment of American monetary history. As we arrive at the final chapter of this detailed exploration of the 1995 D Lincoln cent, it is worth reflecting on the coin's unique position in the broader story of American currency. It is a small, humble piece of metal, yet it embodies decades of history, culture, and craftsmanship. Unlike coins of extreme rarity from earlier centuries, the 1995 D was minted in large numbers, intended for everyday commerce. Yet its journey from the Denver Mint into circulation and eventually into collectors' hands demonstrates how even ordinary coins can carry extraordinary narratives. One of the most important takeaways is the interplay between condition and scarcity. While the vast majority of 1995 D cents are common and worth 1 cent, the very best preserved examples, those that retain full red coloration, strong luster, and perfect surfaces, are rare in comparison to the mintage. This conditional rarity creates an arena where collectors compete, particularly in registry sets and high-grade auctions, to secure the finest specimens. The coins themselves do not change, But human perception, preservation choices, and the passage of time transform them from everyday currency into collectible treasures. Mint errors add an additional layer of excitement. A misaligned strike, an off-center planchet, a broad strike, or other mechanical anomalies can suddenly elevate a seemingly ordinary 1995D cent into a sought-after collectible. Such coins are tangible evidence of the minting process and its complexity, capturing moments when machines deviated from perfection. They remind collectors that no matter how automated production becomes, there is always room for chance and uniqueness. The story of the 1995D Lincoln cent is also one of human connection. Each coin has likely passed through dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of hands, participating silently in countless transactions. It may have bought a pack of gum, paid for parking, or served as spare change tucked into jars and drawers. These small interactions form a silent history that is as much social and cultural as it is monetary. Collectors also find educational value in the 1995D cent. Studying its details teaches about grading standards, die characteristics, mint mark significance, strike quality, and preservation techniques. It serves as a gateway into broader numismatic knowledge, introducing beginners to the joys of observation, research, and careful evaluation. The coin may seem small, but its capacity to teach is enormous. Technically, the 1995D cent represents modern minting excellence. Its 2.5-gram copper-plated zinc composition reflects efficiency, durability, and cost considerations in coin production. Its design, featuring Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, connects it to nearly a century of numismatic history, creating continuity and familiarity. In every detail, it illustrates the evolution of coinage, from early bronze compositions to modern plated metals, and from hand-engraved dies to highly automated minting presses. Emotionally, the coin resonates with nostalgia. Those born in the mid-1990s may see it as a birth-year token, a tangible link to their earliest memories. Generational collectors may associate it with childhood savings jars, early allowances, or the first time they explored coin collecting. That sentimental dimension adds subtle but meaningful value, independent of market prices or auction results. Looking to the future, the 1995D Lincoln cent will continue to occupy dual roles: a functional unit of currency and an object of study, preservation, and collection. As coins from the 1990s age into vintage territory, condition rarity and error varieties will drive continued collector interest. Even if the penny is eventually retired, the existing population of 1995D cents will become finite, further solidifying their historical significance. Ultimately, the 1995D Lincoln cent demonstrates that numismatic value is multidimensional. It is not solely determined by mintage or face value, but by condition, rarity, historical context, human interaction, and the stories embedded within every scratch, gleam, or error. While headlines about multi-million-dollar valuations are myths in this case, the coin's genuine worth lies in its ability to connect collectors with history, teach important lessons, and inspire meticulous observation and appreciation. Holding a 1995D Lincoln cent today is like holding a small bridge between past and present. It is a snapshot of 1995 America, of minting technology, of everyday commerce, and of human curiosity. Each coin is unique, carrying its own physical and historical nuances, waiting to be noticed, studied, preserved, and cherished. Its humble face value of 1 cent belies the richness of its story, a story that spans decades and continues to unfold as collectors and enthusiasts examine, learn, and share. In conclusion, the 1995D Lincoln cent is far more than a simple penny. It is a testament to the enduring appeal of the Lincoln cent series, a window into modern minting practices, a teaching tool for numismatists, and a symbol of historical continuity. Its value is layered, encompassing the monetary, the collectible, the educational, and the sentimental. While most examples remain common, the few high-grade, error, or carefully preserved coins achieve prominence among collectors. Each one contributes to the ongoing narrative of American coinage, proving that even the smallest denomination can carry immense historical and collectible significance. And so the story of the 1995D Lincoln cent ends here, at least for now, as a perfect illustration of how ordinary coins, through preservation, observation, and human curiosity, can become objects of fascination, study, and enduring legacy in the world of numismatics.